The next section, or not the next section, the next topic is called the weighted mean. So why do we care about weighted means? Weighted means are used very, very often in education, for instance. How do you find a GPA? You might be taking a math class that's worth 3 credits, and you might be taking a science class that's worth 5 credits. So getting a B in the math class is not the same weight as getting a B in the science class because it's more credits. So the amount of that goes towards your GPA changes on the number of credits for that class. That is called a weighted mean. Other ways that you see weighted means would be, for instance, how do you get graded in this class? Homework is worth 10%, quizzes are worth 10%, tests are worth 60 or 70%, depends on which class you're in. So there's different weights, different percentage values for each of those different scores. So those different weights change how you would calculate the mean. You can't just add them up and divide it by what there are. You have to weigh it appropriately based off of what its weight is. Okay? So it says a value called a weighted mean is often used when some data values are more important than others. For instance, your midterm and final exam, if you have them in a class, are generally worth more than a common chapter test. It says, for instance, many professors determine a student's course grade from a student's test in the final examination. Consider the situation in which a professor counts the final exam score as 2 test scores. To find the weighted mean of the student's scores, the professor first assigns a weight to each score. In this case, the professor could assign each of the test scores a weight of 1 and the final exam a weight of 2 because the final exam is worth 2 tests. So it says a student with a test score of 65, 70, 75, and a final exam score of 90 has the following weighted mean. So you do the 65 times 1 because it's score times its weight, plus 70 times 1, again the score times the weight, plus 75 times 1 again, score times the weight. Then notice you do 90 times 2, the score times its weight. It was worth twice as much, so that's where you get the times 2. Here's the crazy thing that you got to be really, really careful of, is they divide it by 5. They only took 4 exams, but they divided it by 5. Why did they divide it by 5? You're not dividing it by the number of items now. You're dividing it by the total sum of the weights. So there were 3 tests, each weighted at 1, and then there was a test weighted at 2. The sum of those weights is 5, so you need to divide it by 5, not 4, 5. Okay, and that gives us our weighted mean of 78. So that's what that student would have scored, or their test exam average would have been. It says, note that the numerator of the weighted mean above is the sum of the product of each test score and its corresponding weight. The number 5 in the denominator is the sum of all the weights. The procedure for finding the weighted mean can be generalized as follows. It says the weighted means of the number n, numbers x1 through xn with respective assigned weights w1 through wn is the sum of the x times the w. So what it is the score times the weight divided by the sum of the weights. So it is not the number of tests, it's the sum of the weights. Okay. So it says many colleges use a 4-point grading system. We do at our college. It's A equals 4, B equals 3, C equals 2, D equals 1, and F weights is 0. A student's grade point average is calculated as a weighted mean where the student's grade in each course is the given weight total at times the number of credits it is worth. So if you get an A, anytime you see an A, that's worth a 4. Anytime you see a B, it's worth a 3. A C is a 2, a D is a 1, and an F is a 0. And then you multiply that times the number of credits for the course. So let's look at this example. If a person got a B in English, which was a 4-credit course, an A in History, which was a 3-credit course, a D in Chemistry, which was a 3-credit course, and a C in Algebra, which is a 4-credit course, what would this person's GPA be? So how do we do it? Again, anytime we see a B, that's going to be worth 3 points. An A is worth 4 points. A D is only worth 1 point, and a C is worth 2 points. You multiply the grade times the course times the credits. So 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. And then you're going to add all of these numbers together. So 12 plus 12 is 24. Plus 3 is 27. Plus 8 would be a total of 35. Now what do I do with 35? I'm going to take that total right there and I'm going to divide that by the number of credits. The number of credits the student took. Let's look at this. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 3 is 10, plus 4 is a total of 14 credits. So I'm going to do 35 divided by 14. When I do 35 divided by 14, go ahead and see what you get. I'm getting a weighted GPA of 2.5. So this person has a GPA of 2.5. Again, how did we do this problem? We looked at each grade times its point value. So A's were 4, B's were 3, C's were 2, D's were 1s, F's would be 0s. We multiplied that point value times the number of credits. We added all those values together, and then we divided it by the number of credits. Never divide it by the number of classes, you're dividing it by the number of credits. So that's how you calculate your own GPA at our college. Go ahead and check your GPA now, or estimate what you think your GPA will be.